All right, hi, my name is Howard. Here is Brian and Evan, my teammates, and together we're Prescribd. Our vision is to simplify the process of prescription fulfillment. And the reason we're doing this is we're seeing in the current market that it's becoming easier for people to fraud or forge prescriptions. In addition, we're seeing that in the US, we have a large base of people who speak a language other than English. And these are needs that we want to address. So currently, the way that we are developing our service is that we want to charge pharmacies a percentage fee per prescription because we're reducing their liability and their risk. And for physicians and patients, we're offering them a free-to-use service because we want them to join our service. So the core behind our service right now is a two-factor authentication that we're doing. This is something that could be part of a patent portfolio in our business. Because what we're doing is we're having it so that the physician has a portal where they log in and they write a prescription for a patient. This then gets sent to the pharmacy. And on the patient side, they get a notification whenever their physician writes them a prescription. And from there, on their phone, all they have to do is swipe right to send it to the pharmacy that they've pre-selected in their account. By doing this, you can see here in the physician portal that this is their portal. At the top, you have the patient's name, their current medication history, and at the bottom, you have their prescription settings. This is where they can go and write in a prescription for the patient, give them electronic signature, and our servers, after we receive it, will give them a success message saying that it's been sent. For the patient, on their application, they have an application where as soon as the physician sends the medication on their phone, they get a notification that says they now have this new medication, and they can just swipe right and have it dispensed at the pharmacy. And because currently, under the current regulations in the US, we don't have a lot of regulatory standards for electronic healthcare prescribing. And because of that, we're trying to set a higher and new standard for what is going to become the issue coming forward in these next 10 or 20 years. What we're doing is we're having so that on the physician's computer and on the patient's computer, there's a point of encryption where after it gets sent to the servers, it gets sent to the pharmacy, and only there can they decrypt the actual information. The reason we're doing this is because we need to maintain a HIPAA-compliant distance, meaning that because this information is solely for the physician, the patient, the pharmacist, we want to make sure that we maintain a distance where we cannot see this. Because on our servers, if a hacker were to come in and take a hard drive from us, for example, they could go in and see this information. But because we have encrypted it, they would open it up and see nothing. They'd see gibberish. Now, the benefits of using this service are that, number one, we're reducing the chance and the liability and risk for pharmacists. Because if you think about it, with the current system, anyone could come in with a forged prescription and send it to the pharmacist. And if they were to fulfill it, and the DA finds out that they do this, they run the risk of getting their license pulled. And this is a huge risk in the current market. And so what we're trying to do is create a platform where there is a set standard for where a doctor sends in their factor, the patient sends in their factor, and when they meet, what we're getting is a complete system so that they know that everything has been verified, and then they can go about doing their job. In addition, we want to provide these language translations because in the US, a lot of people speak a language other than English, and frankly, this is a big issue when it comes to communicating between the pharmacist and the patient. Lastly, we want to use iOS because the accessibility functions allow us to help people who are a part of the disabled community. And so with that, we want to thank you for your time, and we hope you'll come and join Prescribd.
I understand there are probably a number of online applications that do similar things from either medication reminders or trying to make this connection with the pharmacy. Could you just give us a sense, a little bit of the landscape where your app fits?
Sure, certainly. So we went about looking at the landscape from every point of view. So we looked at the current pharmacy landscape. For example, you have CVS, Rite Aid, Walgreens. These pharmacies, they come out with these applications for users on iOS and Android. The problem with their current applications is they don't actually offer the ability for a patient to add in their prescription and have it fulfilled by the pharmacy. They do get medication reminders and pharmacy chats, but primarily the services are only those two. They don't have the ability to add in new prescriptions into the current system. As for healthcare systems, they have things like the Epic Healthcare Database, This is a huge one that Kaiser, that Stanford, that Pacific, Palo Alto Medical Foundation uses. And with this system currently, what doctors are having to do is print out a copy of the prescription, give it to the patient, and then the patient then brings it along to the pharmacy. There's not a lot of checks and balances in the system because patients can quickly, if they wanted to fraud or forge a prescription, they could just make their own version, especially with these the machines necessary going down in cost.
In an ideal world, should Walgreens have its own verification fraud prevention system and CVS have its own? Or should the Department of Justice verify one standard and force all the pharmacists to opt in the same one?
That's a good proposal. I definitely think that we need to have a stricter standard on a whole governmental basis for these types of prescriptions. Because currently, especially as we go into a more technological era, there's a lack of regulatory standards in this field. Everything is currently down to paper. And as physicians move to these new laws that force them to have electronic files for patients, they need to have a standard where they can understand what exactly can and can't be done. In our work trying to figure out and develop this service, we found that the landscape was very vague, and we had to consult not only lawyers but also physicians and pharmacists to understand what we need to be doing and what we can and cannot do.
Can you give us a status report on your development and your next steps?
Sure. So currently we have this iOS application mockup built, and we also have a physician portal created. The next step that we want to do is we want to go into the pharmacy, we want to go talk to them and customize our system so that it meets their specific needs. Because what we are creating here is really a platform, and it can go into a large healthcare database system, it could go into a small private doctor's system, and it can work with a whole variety of types of pharmacies. And so because of that, this is something that is catered more for every group. And because of that, there are specific needs that I feel every pharmacy has, and that's something that we want to move forward with.
And can you talk quickly about how do pharmacists currently validate? What's the current system of use there? Maybe you touched on it and I didn't hear it.
Mm-hmm. So currently, after a patient comes and drops off their prescription, they have to do a set of standard checks involving asking the patient about their personal information, and then they go and document the actual prescription. The prescription on it has some watermarks and has some security features in it that they use to make sure this script is not forged. But past that, there really isn't that much more standards. There's currently more a vague era of just trust between the patient and the pharmacist. And it's that trust that can easily be abused. That's what we're trying to close in on. Mm-hmm.
We can touch base on some of the challenges that you foresee.
Yeah. So the foremost one that I have mentioned is certainly the regulatory standards in this field. Because it's a gray area, we really are looking to see if we can get more feedback, whether it be from governmental agencies or lawyers or physicians, on exactly like how much can we disclose about our information to patients, exactly what we should be showing the physician, what we should be showing the patients, and what we should be showing the pharmacist. Those are mainly our primary issues, because we have a system in place that we understand how it works, that we have in place to protect information, but we don't have a system in place to say what we can disclose.
Great. Thank you, guys.